Hello and welcome to Cooking the Books with Heather. Today we're going to be making Andouille gougère out of the Brown Sugar Kitchen book by Tanya Holland. Gougère are made from pâte à choux, which is an interesting pastry, but it's the same pastry that you use for cream puffs and eclairs, and it puffs in the oven and creates like a hollow space inside when it's done right. Gougère are actually a savory version of that, usually have cheese in them. These have Gruyere cheese and also andouille in them. So that's a little bit of the Cajun New Orleans twist that she puts on a lot of her food. And so I'm looking forward to it. I love gougère. They're sort of light and crispy and delicious served warm. You can freeze them and reheat them to serve them later, because we're going to make 24 of them and we're just going to have them as sort of like a snack today. Usually they're served as like an appetizer or kind of with other things, just sort of little nibbles, as far as I've ever had them anyway. So we're just going to have them sort of separately by themselves, nothing else. So we're going to get started. It's an interesting pastry because you start on the stove. So I've got some water that I have measured out already, and on medium-high heat, we're going to bring this to a boil. I'm going to add, right now, because we don't have to wait till it boils, some salt and some butter, unsalted butter, because we just added salt. And when the butter is melted and it comes to a boil, we're going to add the flour to this in the pot and stir it until it is a specific sort of consistency when it all comes together and starts coming away from the sides of the pan. Like I said, it's kind of interesting. I don't know of any other pastries that start this way, but this does. Some other things, I've already preheated my oven to 425 degrees, and I've got two half sheet pans with a piece of parchment paper down. So that's where we're gonna put our dough in little mounds. So we make these cute little round gougère. And so I will need 2 racks. So, and then we're going to like switch them around in the middle when we're baking them. But that's just our preparation that we've already done. Our butter's all melted and our water is coming to a boil, and we're going to add all of our flour, which I've pre-measured, all at once, and we're going to stir this vigorously with a wooden spoon. You do need a wooden spoon for this because it's going to be a very thick kind of dough, and we're going to turn our heat down to medium, and we're going to keep stirring vigorously until we have a smooth, thick paste that comes away from the sides of the pan, which I think we've pretty much got already. That's pretty quick. All right, I'm gonna turn the heat off, and now we're gonna move to our mixer, because we're going to use our mixer for the next step. You can continue using your wooden spoon in a heat-proof bowl and do this that way, but I'm going to take the assistance of my mixer with the paddle attachment. So we have our dough that we made on the stove in the bowl of our mixer with the paddle attachment. I'm going to put this on low speed, and we're going to add 1 egg at a time, waiting until the previous egg is fully incorporated before we add the next one. And we're not going to add quite all these eggs to this, but I'll show you what we do with the last one later. So we're going to just be adding eggs and mixing on low speed for a while here. I've gotten all of my eggs incorporated, and the other egg I've just mixed up in my bowl with a little bit of, I'm gonna add a little pinch of salt, and this is gonna be our egg wash for the top. Now, I'm going to add the cheese. So I have some Gruyere cheese, like I said, just grated up. I like Gruyere. It's a Swiss, and I don't generally like Swiss, but I like Gruyere. I don't know why. And then we have some andouille sausage. She says chopped. I've diced mine up pretty small because we don't want it too big for these little puffs, so it'll cook into it. I think it's pretty much mostly cooked already, so you don't have to worry about that too much. But now we're just going to stir this in. I'm going to take this off of here because I don't think it's getting fully stirred in really well with the mixer, because it's all sort of sticking to the paddle. So I'm going to try to get as much off of there as I can, and then just mix it with my wooden spoon. Move it out of the way and just get this stirred in. She says that you can refrigerate it at this point. If you want to make it like tomorrow, the next day, you can refrigerate it at this point and portion it out and bake it the next day. Fully covered, like cover it with plastic wrap or whatever. And there you go. All right. She says it should be very thick, which it is. All right. So I'm gonna get set up to make my gougère. We'll be right back. All right, so I'm ready to place my gougère, portion them out, and we're going for about 1 inch round and 1.5 inches in between, about a dozen per sheet here. So now I tried to get these as close to in size to each other as possible. Some are bigger, some are smaller, whatever. They'll be fine. It's not that important, honestly. They'll cook differently. They'll still be delicious. So I've got my egg wash and I've got a silicone brush here, and I'm just going to put an egg wash on the top of all of the gougère so that they brown up really nicely. And we're going to cook these at 425 for about 15 minutes. And then we're going to turn the heat down to 375 and rotate the pans. Like I said, since I've got 2 pans here, I'll turn them around and switch which one's on top and which one's on bottom and all that. So that they cook more evenly, or as evenly as possible, and cook them for another 15 minutes or until they are, let's see, puffed and nicely brown. So if they're not brown enough at 15 minutes, let them go a little bit longer. And I'm sure these are going to be delicious. Ready to put them in the oven. We'll let you know what they look like when they're all done. On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, you watched me make the Andouille gougère from Brown Sugar Kitchen by Tanya Holland. I have to say, these were well loved by my family. In fact, we have eaten all of them. It is probably, 2 hours after they came out of the oven, a little bit more maybe, and they're gone. The dog managed to steal one. She liked it. She tried to get more, didn't manage. So we ate 2 dozen in less than 2 hours. They were done to our liking, I think, at 30 minutes. If you wanted them a little drier on the inside, which when you're gonna stuff a pâte à choux, like a profiterole or something like that, or an eclair, you do want them a little bit drier, and usually you poke them to let the steam out as they cool. So they were a little moist on the inside, but not undercooked. It was great. Nobody had any complaints whatsoever about this. The andouille has a little bit of spice to it, but not enough to make anybody feel it, really. It's just very tasty. So with the cheese and the sausage and everything, it was just really great. Not too hard. I would suggest using the mixer because it might be hurting your arm if you mixed all that with a wooden spoon. But yeah, highly recommended. The pâte à choux is a little intimidating if you're not used to it, but it's really not all that hard to get right. And for these this is a good intro to pâte à choux because even if it doesn't puff up and make a nice hole for you to stuff, that doesn't matter because you're just gonna eat these just like they are. So if you've never made it before, this is a great first recipe. And let me know down in the comments if you've made it before and what you think, and if you think it's difficult or if you thought it was easy. I think it's actually one of the easier pastries, in my opinion. So if you enjoyed watching me make this, please give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and come back and watch me make something else.